when I landed, I didn't have any idea where I was at. I knew I wasn't on my drop zone that I'd been briefed on. I was in a field. The field was surrounded with hedgerows, and no one had ever told us about the hedgerows. They were just almost a barrier that you couldn't find the entrance to that particular field. You just had to cut your way out. And I landed. No one around me that I could see. I took my trench knife out and cut my harness off of my chute, and sat there for a few minutes trying to hear if I could hear anyone or see anyone. I didn't. So I got through the hedgerow, walked out, and there was a road there. So I walked down the road. We each of us were carrying a landmine, about a 30-pound landmine, and we were supposed to have taken that landmine and after the landing zone and consolidate the landmine so it could be used. And I know that I just took mine out. It's a pretty heavy landmine. I just took mine out and pulled the pin out of it and laid it on the road. And thought, well, the Germans, we don't have any vehicles. The Germans come down the vehicle, they'll run into it, and that'll be fine. And then I started walking, and I heard a motorcycle coming down the road, and I knew we didn't have any motorcycles, so I got to the side of the road, and when the motorcycle came in view, it was a sidecar, and it was German, and I opened up on them with my M1, and apparently hit the driver, and they went off the side of the road. I didn't go back to look at them, and I kept walking, and I walked right into St. Mary Glees, and down to the center of town, and I saw John Steele hanging on the tower. Thought he was dead. He wasn't. He'd been wounded, and the town had already been taken by the 3rd Battalion of the 05, so I stayed with G Company of the 05 for the first 3 days until more from the regiment, the 508, came in. Then we had a large enough group, we got together and went and joined the rest of the 508.
So when you made it to St. Mary Glace, that was all by yourself?
All by myself. And as we went over the French coast, this was a group of pilots that had not flown any of those combat missions before, and as they began to get to anti-aircraft fire, they extended to approximately 2,000 feet, and that was the altitude in which we jumped over into Normandy. When I jumped out of the aircraft, I was a number 2 man out of the aircraft, and because of my platoon leader was I was the platoon leader's radio operator. And when I landed into a field, and the field was not anything that we had been told about, because the hedges in that field were about, I think, 30 feet high and quite thick, and there was only one way in and out of that hedgerow, and you had to find the exit in order to get out of it. And I don't recall that I had heard any. I don't recall that I heard any crickets. That was a device we used to identify each other while I was in the headway or in the hedgerow. And as I went out, I was on a dirt road. As I was going down the road, on the side of the road, saw a glider, and I looked in the glider, and the person in there were dead. And so I continued to walk down the road, and I heard a motorcycle coming, and I knew that I didn't think we had a motorcycle. We probably did, but I wasn't aware of it. So as far as I knew, the motorcycle was a German motorcycle, and it was a motorcycle with a sidecar with 2 people, and I opened up on them and killed them, and then continued to march on into St. Mary Glees. And as I entered St. Mary Glees, I saw the church, and on the church steeple, one of our troopers, Steele, was hanging on the church steeple. I thought he was dead, but he was still alive, and I think he'd been wounded in the ankle, and he got down and managed to escape. And that's the thing that I remember most vividly. I was with George Company of the 505, and they were in the Germans had dug trenches around St. Mary Glees, as if they had known that at one point in the conflict that they would probably be in that area and would probably be fighting the advancing troops. But sure enough, we were there in the pit, and they had an 80 millimeter mortar position, a 505 80 millimeter mortar position set up at the far end of the pit, and we were under artillery fire, and one artillery round got them, and unluckily killed all of the mortar squad. So that was my first. That was my first introduction to combat. And we were then given objectives to continue the attack, and our battalion was going to attack across an open territory, and to a town at some distance, maybe 500 yards, some distance away. And as we were going into attack, the Germans had trenches across the area that we were attacking, and I went over one trench. As I jumped over the trench, I saw the German that he had later I looked at him. He had the German Schweizer, and he raised up and he looked, and when he did, I hit him in the chest with a submachine gun and killed him. And I didn't have any time to stay there. I knew that I had killed him, so that was my first. I guess that was my first real close combat action in which I killed an enemy that was right this close to me. And I had some thought about it. Well, this is an enemy, and this is a war, and it was either kill him or kill me, and I did what I was supposed to do. But I still remember very much. I still remember him very vividly as I jumped over the trench, looking up at me like this, and he had that German Schweitzer, and I said, well, I had a submachine gun, and I just hit him in the chest, and that was it. I continued to attack and went on into a town that we took, and the objective we took, and a patrol out of I Company, personnel out of I Company for patrol, and the patrol leader is going to be Lieutenant Harn, Second Lieutenant Harn, and they said they came down to the company and second platoon, and Delbert was in. And they said, well, I don't know why. Maybe it was because I was a radio operator that I wasn't going to be taken to that particular patrol. But I said, well, no, you let him sleep. I'll go to patrol, and I volunteered for patrol. And I can visualize that so clear in my mind right now that we were walking down a dirt road, and there's Bill Hughes and myself in the lead, and I'm here on this side, and Bill is over here on this side, and a big mistake going down the damn road in the first place. I don't know why we were, but there's ditches on each side of the road, and up front here was a little wooded piece of terrain, and that German vehicle, mechanized vehicle, was in there, and of course we didn't see it then, and we're watching up, and the first thing I hear was a fire. And there's automatic fire from machine guns. Their machine guns, the rate of fire was a lot faster than ours. Ours would go chick, 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 and theirs would go, and they go, and they got me in the shoulder, and hit me in the ditch, and then they got me in the back of the head. And Bill would, I'm in the ditch then, and Bill would say, Bob, are you all right? And every time he'd say that, they'd open up again and just try to clip in my head again. And I thought, I wish you'd shut that shit up. Well, he says, I'm going to knock them out. And he did. And he saved my life. He knocked that vehicle out and saved my life. He had a submachine gun, Thompson submachine gun, and he just opened up a fire. He was close enough to him that his fire was very effective, and he just opened up with him on that submachine gun. And they were worried about it. They were trying to keep me down. They were still firing at me, knowing that they knew that they'd hit me. Visually, they knew that they'd hit me, and they're firing at him, or firing at me, and so he opened up on him, and he got him, and he knocked out the damn mechanical, or the mechanized vehicle, and he really got him. He shut him up, and I got out of the ditch, and we got back on the road, and we went back to our position, and I went to the battalion aid station, and our battalion surgeon was there, and he treated me first. Well, I'll tell you what it felt like. You see that?
Oh my God.
Okay. The shoulder, and then they got me right in the back of the head too here. And you feel here, you can feel the steel plate in my head. I survived. Believe it or not, this happened on my 19th birthday. Our company had a mission of setting up a roadblock in Beek. Now, Beek was right on the German border, and part of the town was in Germany and part of the town was in Holland. And our objective was to initially go down and set up a roadblock reinforced by engineers and 87 millimeter anti-tank gun. We got down and put our first roadblock in. On the way down, we were delayed by some armored cars, and we got the armored cars out, 2 of them, and set up a roadblock. And the Germans launched a small counterattack, and the troops that were there had to pull back, and then we were given the orders to attack again, go down, attack again, get back down in town, and set up a roadblock. We did so, and we had an engineer platoon with us, and the 187 millimeter tank gun, and the Germans then launched a major attack on our positions, and we had 2 lieutenants with us. One of them, Lieutenant Tinker, I believe his name was killed. Tree burst had hit, and it had killed him in the foxhole with a radio operator. And the other officer, and I just would say probably not for publication, he was last seen leaving, going up a hill without his weapon. And I took command of the operation. And when I found out that the Germans were attacking with tanks, armor, and a good-sized force, and I pulled our force back to the high ground just outside of Beek, and set up defensive position there just to try to stop them from going any further. And I talked to Colonel Mendez, our battalion commander, on the phone. And he says, how large a force do you think that is, Chisolm? And I said, well, Colonel, it looks to me like there's at least a battalion of armor and maybe a battalion of infantry coming at us. And I think I had 187 men, or 87 men, real small unit. He says, well, you maintain your position, and we're going to try to attack. And he attacked with 2 companies, and they couldn't get in. He finally committed over a battalion to get back in there. And later we wondered, well, why are they so hot to get back in this little town? Well, we were occupying Germany. We were the first American unit to occupy German territory. And I guess the Germans didn't want anybody on their homeland, and they were determined to get us out of there. But we finally took the town back, and then we held it. Beek, Holland.
Is there anything you would like to tell future generations at all? Any piece of advice from somebody from your background, your experience? You have a lot to offer. What would you tell them?
I would say, learn the history of your country, that is very important, that you know where we've been and how we got there, and that it is so important, because if you don't know the history of your country, you're just missing out on a great opportunity. Respect your country and your Constitution and all people in your country, without regard to race, creed, or religion. I think if you can do that, not only will you be a success, your country will be a success.
And that's something worth fighting for.
That's what we've been fighting for.
Good afternoon. My name is the Reverend Douglas P. Davis. May our beloved Robert E. Chisolm rest until we see him again. Once again, let God's countenance just glow within each and every one of us. Amen. Amen. May we never forget.
On behalf of the Vietnam veterans of America, Robert E. Chisolm, Chapter 844, has been an honor to have his namesake. God bless the family. God bless our troops. God bless the United States of America. Hold on.
After Bob was inducted in the 82nd All-American Hall of Fame in May 2019, he said to me, "Chris, you know how I felt about earning the Legion of Merit in Holland. But what do you think? Is this my biggest achievement?" I quickly answered, "Well, beyond having a wonderful marriage to Margaret and beyond parenting your beloved Dawn, I would say the All-American Hall of Fame is your most significant award because it recognizes your entire military and civilian life. It's a recognition of 8 decades of a most impactful adult life. We should note that to date, Lieutenant Colonel Bob Chisolm, his great friend, Command Sergeant Major Rock Merritt, and First Sergeant Leonard Funk are the 3 Red Devils among the 57 inductees into the All-American Hall of Fame, forever distinguished among the hundreds of thousands who have served with the 82nd Airborne Division over the last 105 years. You know, in the business world, we talk about what's your 30-second elevator speech. In May 2019, here is what we wrote as the so-called executive summary about Bob. An original World War II paratrooper, Bob Chisolm made combat jumps into Normandy on D-Day and into Holland during Operation Market Garden, then fought courageously in the Battle of the Bulge. He was wounded in all 3 actions and evacuated from both France and Belgium. As a corporal, he was awarded the Legion of Merit for inspiring performance of duty in Holland. In a 29-year distinguished Army career, he led in combat in both Korea and Vietnam, becoming just one of 324 soldiers to earn 3 combat infantry badges. Later, Bob pursued a successful business career and then dedicated himself to veterans organizations, including his beloved Benavides-Patterson chapter of the 82nd Airborne Division Association, cementing his legacy through scholarship programs at the chapter and also at the University of Texas, El Paso. I always like to remind folks what the mission of our association is, and that is to honor, preserve, and communicate the history of all eras of 508 paratroopers. From originals like Bob and his cherished friend Rock Merritt, to today's 2 battalions of the 508th within the 82nd Airborne Division based at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, hundreds of whom are now once again front and center, deployed in Eastern Europe, defending freedom and democracy. Those paratroopers, both those deployed and those on alert, are the legacy of Bob and Rock. So today we honor a great American and a downright great person, an American patriot, a loving and devoted husband to Margaret and father to Dawn, a local business leader, a volunteer who donated to numerous causes, and a true gentleman in every sense of the word. Today, we have an important opportunity to once again recommit ourselves to telling the story of Bob Chisolm, his family, his comrades, and his colleagues, so that future generations might be motivated and inspired by one of the giants of Tom Brokaw's greatest generation.
Put on your boots and parachute, shoot, we're going up, we're coming down. Put on your boots, we're all American and proud to be. Boots and parachute, we're the soldiers of liberty. We're going some ride their gliders to the enemy. We're coming down, there's a sky parachute. Put on your boots, we're all American and fight. We will boots and parachutes till all the guns of the foe still. Get ready! Airborne from skies of blue. Stand in the door. We're coming through. Make your jumps and take your bumps today. Let's go put on your boots. Your jumping boots. Your parachute. Your parachutes. Get all those gliders ready to attack today. Look up, for we'll be gone. Boring and check into the dawn. And station time to fight them all. The 82nd way. Hey, hey! Put on your boots and parachute, shoot, we're going up, we're coming down. We're all American and proud to be. Boots and parachute, we're the soldiers of liberty. We're going some ride their gliders.